Well, with Trump declaring victory, he's pulled off what would be a truly astonishing comeback. Here's how the day unfolded.
He did a great job. He was very fearless.
I voted for Kamala.
He almost got killed.
We don't need no more riots, no more nothing.
Across the country, an expected record voter turnout in a tense and historic presidential race.
I was always like a lifelong Democrat, but this time around I decided to change to Republican.
In the wake of a chaotic campaign, voters sought calm before the storm.
Of course there'll be no violence. My supporters are not violent people.
Trump in Palm Beach, Florida. Harris at her campaign headquarters in Washington, D.C.
If you're in line, stay in line. Don't let them take you off that line.
Trump racking up early wins in Florida, Texas, and a range of red states, despite women outnumbering men at the polls.
The number one reason why I did vote for her was abortion rights.
That is the main deal breaker for me.
Voters naming the state of democracy the most important issue.
It's the difference between democracy and autocracy.
He's trying to make America a fascist state again.
Concerns over the economy a close second.
The safety of our country, our economy. Why would you not vote Trump?
And addressing a raucous crowd, Trump tonight declared election victory.
I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president. This is a magnificent victory for the American people that will allow us to make America great again.
Well, Jason Osborne was an advisor to Donald Trump in his 2016 presidential campaign. He joins us now. Jason, what do you think President Trump 2.0 will look like?
Well, I think it'll be a lot like the first version of it, but hopefully a little bit more moderation, I think, in terms of how he's approaching governing. Quite frankly, I think he learned some lessons the last time around with some of the people that he put in place that really didn't share his vision of what he wanted his administration to look like. And so I think this time around, he's going to be more careful. Not to say that he's going to do more vetting. I think he's just going to make sure that he has people in positions that he won't have to worry about and that he doesn't trust, or that in this case, he will trust. So I'm a little bit more optimistic about this time around, given some of the temperament that we've seen over the past, 6 years, 7 years. I think he knows what he wants his legacy to be, and now he's got 4 years to accomplish it.
You've worked pretty closely with him. We've heard some pretty intense rhetoric over the past month, including that he's a fascist, that he's Hitler. Is he?
No, far from it. And if you look at some of the turnout, the demographics that have shown over the past, 24 hours, or we'll see shortly soon here, 24 hours, he had an increase in black male voters. He had an increase in Hispanic voters. He had an increase kind of almost across the board. And what's interesting is we've heard a lot about historic turnout. We're still about 17 million votes less than we had in 2020. And he's only 5 million less than he had in 2020. But Kamala is significantly less in her numbers. And so I think that what that shows is that people are itching to get back to the economy that was under Donald Trump. They're okay with some of his rhetoric. I don't think anybody truly believes that the guy is a fascist or that he's Hitler. He's one of the most caring men that I've had the pleasure of working with. He just articulates it in a little different ways than a lot of us are used to or would like.
Just want to pick up on your optimism, because I suspect there's many Australians watching this, with a degree of anxiety about what it means for us, for allies. Trump has different views about allied nations, and the relationships have been strained at various points. What would you say to anyone here that's watching about what to expect?
Well, forgive me if I know that he had some problems with a lot of countries, but I don't think Australia was ever one of them.
Well, he had a screaming match with our Prime Minister at the time, Malcolm Turnbull. It was a fair showdown.
Well, okay, that's fair. Maybe he deserved it. But
some people would agree with you, Jason.
I think one thing that's very, very consistent about Donald Trump, and I had the opportunity to work with him and his administration in several countries in Europe, was that he took the viewpoint that, look, America cannot be the savior to everybody in terms of they can't carry the financial burden of the rest of the world. And so I think he made that message clear with in Europe with NATO, and folks paid attention to it, and they realized, hey, we made a commitment when we established NATO that everybody has to contribute 3% of their annual budget towards the cost of NATO, and several countries were not doing that. So I think, I'd heard your previous guest talk about the tariffs and as it relate to Australia. No, the tariffs aren't going to relate to Australia. They're going to relate to China, and they're going to relate to Mexico. And the goal in that is to actually create jobs in America and bring back manufacturing to America. We saw this during COVID, where there was a lack of manufacturing in our country, and I think in the rest of the world, because it had all been sent over to Asia to handle the PPEs and the masks and the gowns and everything that we needed in this disaster.
Are you saying you don't, because he has talked about 10 to 20% tariffs on all imports, not just the 60% plus tariffs he wants to put on Chinese imports. Are you saying you don't think he's going to do that?
I don't think he's going to go that far. No, I mean, I think that is campaign, I don't want to say necessarily rhetoric, but I think it is an example of Donald Trump saying, look, I want to take care of America first. And as it relates to more jobs, more economy moving forward.
Jason, you've advised his administration before, you've worked with Donald Trump before. I wonder, you talk about how he really did seem to appeal to male voters in particular. How would you advise the president-elect to appeal to female voters moving forward?
Well, I think one of the misnomers about Donald Trump is his view on abortion, and I think it got completely mischaracterized as the campaign wore on. Donald Trump is not going to advocate for a national ban on abortion. Donald Trump fulfilled the promise that he made, which was to return the issue to the states. And as we've seen, in fact, Nevada and Arizona, or Nevada or Arizona, I can't remember which, just voted to do away with their I think it was a 12-week ban on abortions. States are going to make that decision, as was designed by the Constitution of America. So I think moving forward, Donald Trump is going to show, first off, that the economy will get better under his administration, the taxes will get lower, and that the middle class will benefit from it. And that's a ripple effect on everything else beyond that. I don't think you're going to see Donald Trump tackling, some of these issues that the other side was threatening that he would address. I think in his mind, those issues have been addressed and they're done, and we're moving on.
Jason Osborne, really appreciate your time. Get to bed.
Yeah,
Thank you for chatting with us. It's very early there.